So here on your sheet of paper, I want you to create 8 lines, if you would, or number it 1 through 8. I'm going to put a table up here on the screen for you to be able to take a look at, and if you would create something similar to this on your sheet of paper, I'm going to give you a couple of practice scenarios for you to determine or identify the determinant or shifter of demand. And then you also need to discuss whether it's going to increase or decrease, and then whether that is going to shift to the right or the left. So if you create a table similar to this on your sheet of paper, it'll help you get ready to go. Okay, everybody ready for number 1? Here we go. First scenario. You're going to identify the shifter. So if you need to look back in your notes to examine what the shifters or the determinants of demand are, you may look back in your notes to do that, but I want you to see if you can figure out which one it is and then decide if it's going to increase or decrease, move to the left or the right. We're going to look at hamburgers. All day long I could look at that hamburger. It is assumed to be a normal good in this scenario. If there's a population boom, this is number 1. What would happen to demand? You're going to determine what is the shifter, which one of those 5 determinants of demand would this be underneath? Would it increase or decrease demand, and would that shift the curve to the right or the left? I want you to write in an answer for all 3 of those columns. Okay, once you have your answer written in there, I want you to turn to a neighbor and I want you to compare and see if you agree with your neighbor. If you disagree with your neighbor, try to figure out why. Yes. So you're going to be putting 3 answers in there. Identify the shifter, identify the determinant. Then in the second column, you're identifying, is it going to increase or decrease demand? And then the third column, does it shift to the right or the left? So you should have discussed this with your neighbor, compared a little bit, and figured out who was right and who was wrong. If you have to rock, paper, scissors for it, I suppose you could. Okay, line number 2. I will give you the answers here when we're all done. Income falls due to recession. Income falls due to recession. Keep in mind that hamburgers are considered a normal good. Incomes fall due to recession. What determinant of demand would this address? Is this going to increase or decrease demand? Is it going to shift your curve to the right or the left? Write in your answer. And after you write in your answer, then you can discuss with your neighbor. After being the key word there. Okay, number 3. Price of tacos, which happens to be a substitute, decreases. I hope you can figure out the determinant on this one. So determinant, increase or decrease, shift right, shift left. Number 4. I'm on number 4 already. Price increases to $5 for hamburgers. Now, I know we don't know what the old price was, but we know there's a price increase here. It's a price increase on hamburgers. What is the determinant of demand? Is it going to increase or decrease demand? Is it going to shift right or shift left? When the price of hamburgers increases. Price increased. In case I didn't emphasize it enough, I'll use my laser pointer. Price increased. Number 5. There's a new health craze out there which says that ground beef is bad for you. For some of you, I know that wouldn't change a thing. But for the general population, which determinant of demand? Is it going to increase or decrease demand, and is it going to shift the curve to the right or the left? Put in your answer. And take a glance over at your neighbor after you have put in your answer. Compare and see which of you is correct. Number 6. All of a sudden, hamburger restaurants announced that they're going to significantly increase the purchase price next month. Next is capitalized. Take a hint. So write in your answer. Determinant. Increase or decrease, shift right or shift left? We are, yeah. I want to give you an opportunity here to glance at your neighbor and see if you want to change your answers. Find out why they may have disagreed with you. How dare they? Because you are the authority and you are always correct. Number 7, price of fries, which is generally a complement to hamburgers, goes up. What do you suppose is going to happen? What is the determinant of demand there? And what's going to happen to the demand? Is it going to increase or decrease? Is the curve going to go to the right or the left? Yep, we're still dealing with hamburgers, but its complement, fries, has just increased in price. Idaho went through a major problem, and all of a sudden, all the Idaho potatoes are ruined. No fries. Those fries that are there are elevated in price because there's a low quantity available. Yeah, we'll get to supply here in the next chapter. Number 8, last one here. Restaurants lower the price of their hamburgers to 50 cents. Now, if I were a astute learner here, I might do a comparison with number 4. Say, that seems a little bit similar, just the opposite. But go wherever you want. Do whatever you want. Put on your paper whatever you think is right. Okay, so one last check with your neighbor. See if there's anything you want to change, anything that you want to ask them why they put that instead of the correct answer, why they would put something wrong on their paper, and see if you want to make any changes to yours. Of course, you probably don't because you're right. Your neighbor's the one that's wrong. But maybe you can convince them why they're wrong. Yep. Well, but is that change in demand? What is that? Yeah. It's change in quantity demanded. Okay, ready to see the answers? Here we go. So take a look at your chart. Compare it to what's up on the screen. Number 4 was your distractor, your seeing whether you caught the price increase on that one. If there's a price increase on the burgers, that is automatically change in quantity demanded. It is not a change in demand. Nathan?
For number 6,
Yep.
that had to deal with price increases as well. So why is
Yes. Okay, good question. I was wondering if somebody's going to catch that. Why is that one considered a shifter or a determinant of demand? Expectations. So price did not change today. We are anticipating the price changing in the future, so therefore demand is going to change now. While the price is still the same now, demand is increased because we're expecting next month it's going to change. So next month, if we were to look at that same scenario, then you'd be correct. It would now be a change in quantity demanded. But right now, at the snapshot where we're looking at it, it's still future expectation. Okay? Any other questions? Okay? Everybody good? Then we move on. Cool. Last topic here in this chapter is elasticity. It is. I'm glad you recognize that. Yeah. That is the best cheese where it's elastic and it just stretches.
Have you done the competition where you like to see up?
No, I haven't.
We discovered that they sell frozen, and so whenever we go to Indiana, we get 4 of them.
Yeah, I joined their mailing list, and around Christmas time, they were flooding my inbox telling me that they offer them to be shipped anywhere in the country. And they will freeze them, ship them. It's not cheap, but Giordano's is one of my favorite places when I go to Chicago. Geno's East is also really, really good. There's a Geno's East in Indy? Really? I like to go to the one down on, I think it's on State Street down by Moody. We used to go there when we would play Moody in basketball. We would stay down in that area. So we'd walk down from Moody a couple blocks to Geno's East, and it's one of those type of places where people write on the wall and they write messages and stuff, and it's just kind of a cool environment. But great pizza, elasticity. So unfortunately, we're not talking about pizza a whole lot today in class, but we are going to talk about demand elasticity. And what we're trying to understand here is the extent to which a change in a good's price affects the quantity demanded. So if you are operating a business and you decide that you are going to increase the price of your good by a few cents, maybe a couple dollars, how's that going to affect the demand for your product? And that's what we're talking about here with elasticity. And we want to know to what extent that is going to change. So we are just barely going to cover the surface on this topic. You can go way deeper involved in it. I just want you to have the basic understanding of what elasticity is. So when we demand, we're going to begin here. There's two types of elasticity. There's elastic and there's inelastic. Okay, so elastic we're going to start with here first. This one is saying that when there's a small change in price, there is a major change in the quantity demanded. So for whatever reason, by you adjusting your price just a little bit, all of a sudden, demand fluctuated and it either increased or decreased significantly. Yep.
Can you explain the difference between the term demand and quantity demanded? Because to me that like saying there's a major change in quantity demand that makes me think that a price change causes a demand change instead of no change.
Then like products purchased.
Because like for the chart on the two that
Yeah.
said the price change, you said no change, but like wouldn't it make the demand, the number decrease?
So change in quantity demanded is going to be affected by price change. Okay, so we're staying along the same curve, and what? In the examples we did before? Because those determinants are a change in overall demand at every price point. So when we're talking about demand, you move the entire curve. So at any price point that you looked at, people are going to demand more or less. Let's just go more because maybe that'll be easier to understand. So when we have a change in demand, and we say that that demand curve is going to move to the right, then I can pick any point along this curve, and people are going to demand more at every price. If I just say there's a change in quantity demanded, then I have to stay along this curve, and that means that price went up, so quantity demanded went down. Price went down, so quantity demanded went up. So what? Mm-hmm. An increase or decrease in demand was none for that scenario. But there was a change in the quantity demanded. And that's where I say there's a difference between the quantity demanded and demand. Demand is any point on this price, or on this curve, is demand. Okay, so it changes. Overall demand, maybe I need to use that term. Overall demand is going to increase or decrease. In that scenario you're talking about where there was no change in overall demand, there was an increase in the quantity demanded, but only because of the price changed along this curve. It did not change every demand, every price point like we would see in a total change in demand, a total new curve. Am I clarifying that at all, or am I just making it muddier, more difficult to see that? Okay. When we went through, we talked about change in quantity demanded. And that's why I said that was foundational. That was really important that we understand that. That is saying along the same curve, people are going to demand more at lower prices. Okay, so when the price changes, people are going to demand more quantity. When we talk about demand, we are looking now at an entirely new curve where every price along this curve, people are going to demand more. So we could put any number we wanted in here, and people are going to demand more at every single price along this curve. That's a change in overall total demand, not just at different prices. Okay? I still feel like some of you are shaking your head, but you're like, yeah, whatever, I don't know. So let me try to illustrate this better with perhaps an example. You want to do donuts? Yeah, it seems like a good example to use. Sure. Okay. So we're going to put our price here, put our quantity over here. So let's go with we'll go with increments of 10 cents here, all the way up to 80 cents. Okay. So I'm getting increments of 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30 on my quantity line. Okay, so if we start off here, and I'm just going to pick a point on the line, let's say 40 cents. I'm going to demand 10 donuts at 40 cents a piece. Okay? So if I increase the price, what happens to demand for donuts? The demand of the quantity of donuts goes down. Okay? I increase the price up to 70 cents, and it's going to go down, not by much, but it's going to go down a little bit. We're at about 8 here. Okay? So we're staying on the same curve. If I go down here to 10 cents, what's happening to the quantity demanded? It increased. Now it goes all the way up to 30. Okay? So I'm staying along the same curve. Okay? That's change in quantity because of a price change. Now, if my curve shifts, one of those determinants happened, so it shifts the entire curve. Now what do people demand at 40 cents a piece? They demand 20 donuts. Okay? That increased by 10 donuts. What if I pick 70 cents? Did it increase? Yes. Went up to 15. What if I pick 10 cents? Did it increase over here? Yes. So every price that I pick on here has increased, okay? Because the entire curve has shifted. So that's a change in overall demand at every price point. That's the difference between change in demand, change in quantity demanded. We're only concerned about the fact that price went up, no other factors happened. In change in demand, price stayed the same, and that's why it's a change in demand, because something else, one of those other 5 things happened, so change in demand, price had stayed the same. I can pick any one of these prices, and 40 cents a piece, on demand 1, people wanted 10, demand 2, people wanted 20. We're trying to explain why that happened. Is that a little bit more clear? Okay, I see some more head shaking, so that's good. Okay. Going back here to elastic demand then. A small change in price causes a major change in the quantity demanded. We need to try to figure out what we can determine there, what we can find out from that. So a small change in price causes a major change in the quantity demanded here. There are a couple of evidences or elasticity tests. We can try to figure out what's going on or why this is happening. One of those is that it's not really a necessity. So whatever that product is, let's say it is expensive coffee, and all of a sudden they raise the price by 10 cents. And it's not a necessity, but that 10 cents is just past your willingness to buy that. That could be part of the reason why people are buying less really expensive coffee. So that is one area you could look at, one test that we could look to try to figure out if it's happening there. Perhaps there's an easy substitute. And this is an explanation for why a small change in price causes a major change in the quantity demanded here. Something else is easily substituted that is less expensive, and so people stopped buying your expensive coffee and they started buying something else. There's a coffee shop right across the street that is less expensive or did not raise their prices, and so you're willing to go there. Perhaps the cost equals a high percentage of their income. So the product is elastic because of the fact that now it has pushed their budget too far and they've just decided, no, I can't afford that. I'm not going to spend my money on it anymore. So those are some potential reasons of why people buy less, or there's a major change in the quantity demanded by a small change in price. Yep.
Would an example for the last one be like a house or a car or something like that?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, that could be a good example. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, it might be connected with this one too. Maybe it's not a necessity. And so therefore, when that small change in price, they decide, yeah, it's not really worth it. I'm going to wait till that price comes down. Now, when we look at the other side of this coin here, we look at inelastic demand. Change in price has little impact on the quantity demanded. So there's not a lot of flexibility in the budget for this one, or not a lot of flexibility in people's demand for this one. So it's inelastic. They're going to buy this regardless of the change in price. And so that's why we would say that this is inelastic. A couple things here. The product's a necessity. It might be considered inelastic. So if it is milk and you've got an infant at home, that's going to be inelastic because you have to buy that regardless of the price. Gasoline is going to be inelastic because you have to buy that unless you just choose not to drive your car anywhere. So regardless of the price, if it's a necessity, people are still going to buy it even if the price goes up and there's a change there. You're not going to see a whole lot of fluctuation in demand. Perhaps there's few substitutes for that item. They cannot easily get something to replace it, or there's not an affordable option to replace it. And so you can raise your price on your item and people will still buy it. Could also be that the cost of this item is a small percentage of their budget. So it's really not significant to them if you raise the price on your item because they say, well, it's not really going to hurt my budget a whole lot. I can afford that, no big deal. So therefore, they're going to continue to demand a good amount of it. Doesn't impact the quantity demanded even when you do the price change, okay? So we can show this here in an example table looking at the total revenue test. So total revenue test looks like this, where we look at elastic demand would be determined when we have a price increase gives us low revenue. Okay, price goes up, then all of a sudden our total revenue begins to go down. Then we would determine, well, that must be an elastic item. Inelastic is the opposite. We increase price, we actually get higher revenue by increasing price. So people are still willing to buy that. Now, we look at this table over here, and we can see the point at which it all of a sudden changes, where we had the price per ticket at $250. We were selling 33,750 tickets, giving us a total revenue of $84,000 and change. We raised the price to $3. We are going to sell fewer tickets. Notice that it still follows the law of demand. We're selling fewer tickets, but our revenue goes up. Okay, so seems to be inelastic here at this point. Now, raise our price again to $350. Once again, quantity goes down, but revenue goes up. $4, quantity goes down, still following law of demand, and revenue increases once again pretty significantly. Now, notice what happens at $450. Quantity still goes down, but now revenue has gone down. Now we have changed. Now we are looking at inelastic demand. So some items can be both, but it's at a certain price point that we find out where they change elasticity. So that's one of the best ways to determine if you have these figures, if you have a chart or table like this, you can pinpoint exactly at where it changes elasticity. And here it would be at $4 it changes. And that's really your ideal spot that you want to be. Yes, you have fewer customers than what you would down here. But this is what really matters, isn't it? You want to make the most money. So you want to find out where is the sweet spot on that.